Alright, so we got it pretty good. Sick. I think this is gonna work. If not, we can always bend it a little more, but I don't want to go too much. Thanks for the help, bro.
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah. Pound it. Woo. Got some nice warm tea back here in the garage. It's freezing. It's 34 degrees, but got my little portable heater here that kind of helps out. Wish it was a little bit stronger, but it is what it is. Test fitted the partition here. Looking pretty good. I'm gonna have to trim down the edge on the other side. As you can see, it's a little bit long, but that's good. That's what you want. You want to be able to cut down. You just don't want to take too much off, because then putting metal back on is a lot harder, you know. Thursday morning, gonna go return some of these fittings and exchange a couple. When you're trying to get maintained and be serviceable a certain way, sometimes fittings don't fit exactly the way that you want. So you have to use a slightly different method or routing. And, you know, it's something that I could just slap on whatever fitting just to make it work, but it's not what I want to do. I want this car to be like next level. You know, I want it to be to the point where, you know, when I work on it, it's so easy to do anything on it that it's just like a breeze. You know, I want it to be enjoyable. I don't want to be smashing my fingers around trying to reach this or that, or I can't tighten this, or the motor can't come out because this fitting's in the way, or, you know, oil flow is going to be compromised, or pressure, or any of that stuff. You know, the vacuum, all one route, you know, that way it's all nice and neat and everything. It has to be the best that I can possibly do in order to achieve what I'm trying to achieve, you know. And like I said before, the more times you do things, the better it gets each time. So with my partnership with Phoenix, it's so valuable. Actually, it's really priceless, because it allows me to return fittings, and as long as I don't use them, you know, I can mock them up and everything and make sure that they're good, you know, if that's the right angle and the route that I want it. And then if a certain fitting that I ordered is not going to fit, then I can just go ahead and bring it back, that's what I'm doing right now, and exchange it for the fitting that I know will do the job. So with being able to do it in bulk, it helps even more, because I can attack different parts of the car at once and not just one fitting at a time. So right here is about 37 different fittings that I'm returning in order to get different ones. But we're here at Phoenix HQ, going to grab some of the fittings that I was swapping out right now. This place is awesome. Hose ends, adapters. So I had a small problem. I wasn't sure how to convert hose barb to my map reference on the ECU. So it's good to be working with people who are more knowledgeable from going from point A to B, because I would have done it a different route, and thankfully I have the experience of people who have been doing it much longer than I have in order to help me figure out that issue. What you got going on?
Just laser in a few parts.
Sick! Getting ready to engrave some logos on, what's that, ½ to -6. Sick! Look at that. They're all here. They're going to be individually bagged, labeled, and then ready to go out to your next order. Got our fittings. Let's go over to the shop and start to bend that last piece, because I messed up the other one. Woo-wee. This one's looking pretty good. Back in my garage. Took me about an hour and 45 minutes to get home today, but all good. And this thing fits awesome. I'll put some riv nuts on the other side on that little sheet right there. And it'll pull that gap closed, and then I won't have to weld as much, or when I do weld, it'll look nice. We'll see how it looks after I'm done doing the riv nuts. This side's going to need a little bit of trimming. As you can see, there's a high spot right there. That's just because this spot right here is sitting a little bit too low. So I'm going to have to trim that off, and then we will see how it looks. All right, check it out. Yeah, much better. So I could probably hit that little tiny high spot or low spot right there from the bottom, tapping this stuff up to kind of bring that gap in, and then now I can kind of set my little marks for the riv nuts and start drilling some holes. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. Let's start drilling some holes for those riv nuts and pull up that gap and see what it does. My pilot holes, if you can see them, they're pretty small, but I'm gonna pull it out and draw the big one, or pull it out and I'm gonna drill the big holes now for the riv nuts. So it's M6 1.0. I try to use the same size, which is like a 10 millimeter socket head on most of the small stuff like that. It really helps out just having to hold like one wrench, you know, when you're working on something, rather than, oh hey, grab the 13 and the 16 and the 17, the 19, and the 12, and oh, maybe it's a 3/8. Nah, only metric here. But this is a used bolt. I probably won't use this one on there, but just so you guys get the idea of what type of hardware I'd like to use on this. And then here's the one from before. Yeah, that's a nice new bolt, but I'll probably use something, I don't know, maybe 20 mil or something like that on the riv nuts. M6 1.0. That's a nice bolt right there. 10.9 too. All right, also just to hold this in place while I drill those holes, I just used some channel locks. This little Milwaukee one works pretty good. I also have that old one my mom actually gave to me from years and years and years ago. It's probably like 10 years ago. But yeah, just gonna pop these off and drill those holes. So my wiring stuff, but I use riv nuts a lot when I do wiring, so I'm gonna be using these. I already have them set aside because they're the right size for this specific riv nut. I want to say that's a 1/2. What is it? No, it's a 2664. So yeah, I'm gonna be using that one on for the riv nuts. That way I can, you know, don't have to mess around with what size it is. I already have it set aside. But if you're using different riv nuts, you want to make sure that you look up what size drill bit you're gonna need. I actually went a little bit smaller because I like pushing the riv nut in and it having a little bit of resistance versus just sliding in and then pulling it tight. Alright, so another little trick while I'm drilling, I don't want to get a bunch of metal crap all inside the car because I don't want to clean it up. So I got my little vacuum here. I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole while I'm vacuuming at the same time, and it's going to suck up all the little metal chips. Now that it's fastened in with the bolts and all the small gaps on the bottom are filled, you can still see where the riv nuts are, but the good thing about it is once we weld over it, I can cut off the whole back side if I wanted to, or at least leave some of the pinch on the back for some strength. But really I just wanted it to make sure that the contour was straight before we weld it and that everything fits so that all the gaps are gone. So when he welds, you don't get that real nasty big gap or whatever. So yeah, I'm pumped on this. Almost exactly a 1/4 inch, a little bit less on this side, but I can actually bend this a tad more just to incorporate more space for the actual Lexan, and we should be good. I'm almost even, dead nuts even on the, right here on the strut tower for spacing. So you can see it's a tad bit off, but what's that, like a millimeter or two? That's gonna be okay. I'm okay with that. Yeah, okay. All right, next is going to be fitting the cardboard or this template here to make sure that everything still fits. Oh yeah, this is awesome. As you can see, I have to fix that edge right there a little bit though, but that's gonna be okay. Now, that's why you make all this out of cardboard, so that you can adapt things instead of making them out of the end product and then them not fitting and trying to make it work. Alright, so this part makes me really nervous because this Lexan here was about 350 bucks. So if I mess up on this, it's going to cost me a lot of money. So I'm just trying to be as careful as possible. I got the flat edge perfectly lined up on the bottom here. It's going to be, I'm just going to take my time, I guess, tracing the outside. And then I'm going to see how the, what is it called? I don't know what that thing's called right now. I'm freaking tired. The skill saw works on one of the edges to see how it cuts, and if I like it, cool. If not, I'll just wait and use the bandsaw over at Abel's tomorrow morning.